China's Great Wall seems like an impenetrable defense, but for the barbaric Huns, it poses little obstacle. When China is alerted to an invasion by Shan Yu, General Li feels that his troops can stop him. But the Emperor won't take any chances and has our first lesson for us. A single grain of rice can tip the scale. One man may be the difference between victory and defeat. Meanwhile, Mulan is preparing for a meeting in the village. Mulan can teach us a second lesson. She looks for creative solutions to problems and often thinks outside the box. Even for simple things like doing chores, Mulan shows how gifted she is to think creatively. After giving her father his morning tea, she says goodbye and heads off to the village. Mulan gets dressed and puts makeup on and catches up with the other girls from her village with the goal of bringing honor to her family. As a part of her evaluation, Mulan recites the final admonition in front of the village's matchmaker. And at first it seems that Mulan's cheat sheet on her arm helps her. But in the end it backfires on her and causes her great embarrassment in front of the whole village. Lesson 3. Cheating is never worth it. Back at home, Mulan struggles with feeling inadequate and her inability to bring honor to her family. Like a typical teenager, she looks at her own reflection and is trying to figure out who she is and what she will do with her life. Lesson 4. Soul searching is normal in figuring out who we are. Her father comes over and encourages Mulan and tells her how much he loves her. At that moment, a royal official comes to the village and announces that China is under attack and that every village must send someone to join the imperial army. Fa Zhou is ordered to serve in the army, and he accepts the responsibility. However, Mulan's father was wounded in a previous war and is not fit to serve a second time. Mulan knows that if her father goes to serve, he wouldn't survive. She wishes there was another way to stop her father from sacrificing himself. In another display of thinking outside the box, Mulan makes the decision to disguise herself and put on her father's armor to take his place as a recruit. With her disguise complete, Mulan runs from home to join the Imperial Army on behalf of their family. Lesson 5. Sacrificing yourself for others is the greatest act of love. Mulan's decision makes her family very worried about her, and they pray for divine intervention. Mulan's ancestors wake up and have a meeting. They decide they need to send a family guardian to help. They choose to send the Great Dragon, so Mushu goes to awaken the dragon. However, Mushu's wake-up call is unsuccessful, and the Great Dragon falls apart into many pieces. Lesson 6. When you make a mistake, take responsibility. Mushu makes the decision to go himself to help Mulan. Meanwhile, Shan Yu continues to make progress in his invasion of China. While Mulan is practicing her disguise and cover story before heading into the training camp, Mulan meets Mushu, and despite a big, impressive entrance, Mulan and her horse have a hard time believing him initially. Lesson 7. First impressions are important, but they're not everything, especially if you pretend to be someone you are not. Eventually, Mulan accepts Mushu's help, and they head off to the training camp. Mulan also tries to make a good first impression with the other troops in the camp. Between Mulan's clumsiness and Mushu's misguidance, she starts off on the wrong foot with everyone around her. Meanwhile, General Li gives Shang his battle plan to stop Shan Yu. Before he leaves, he makes Shang a captain and puts him in charge of training the troops. When they leave the tent, it becomes apparent how much work the training will be. Shang stops the troops from fighting amongst themselves, and Mulan tells him that her name is Ping. Mulan has really given everyone a bad first impression, including her captain. Lesson 8. Sometimes you start off on the wrong foot, and you need to move forward and do your best to try to make it up to others. For all of the new recruits, including Mulan, training starts the next day. When she joins the others, the troops are ready to start fighting again, but Captain Shang arrives and tries to make a man out of each of them. The captain sets a lofty goal for their training: to climb a pole. To accomplish it, Shang gives us our Lesson 9. Discipline and strength are needed to achieve greatness. Shang has a lot of work if his troops will bring honor to all of China. When he first starts training Mulan and the others, they are unbalanced, uncoordinated, and awful at shooting arrows and rockets. Much has to be done to make a man out of each of his troops. At Mulan's low point, Shang even gives up on her and sends her home. Lesson 10. In your darkest moment, don't give up. It may be your turning point where things start getting better. Mulan and the other troops have really improved and are now a disciplined unit, ready for battle. Meanwhile, Shan Yu continues his conquest and is ready to confront General Li and the Imperial Army. When the Emperor's counselor tells Captain Shang that his troops are not ready, Mushu creates a fake order with the help of the Lucky Cricket. Mushu is eager to give Mulan an opportunity to do something heroic and bring honor to the family. Despite having a ridiculous disguise, Mushu is successful in deceiving the Emperor's counselor. As the new recruits march off to join the fight against the Huns, they sing about a girl worth fighting for, and the ideal woman they either have or would like to have. Lesson 11. Motivation is important when doing things that have great risk. The troops need to know what they are fighting for personally, and to know that they are protecting someone back home when they fight. The troops stumble upon a burnt-out village, devastating evidence of the Huns' progress in China. As the troops look for survivors, one of the men brings Shang the helmet of his father who died in the costly battle against the Huns. Lesson 12. When you suffer a loss, take time to mourn. Mulan tries to comfort Shang as well. It's time to move out, however, and the captain puts aside his own personal pain and leads the troops through the pass to try to stop the Huns before they reach the Imperial City. When a rocket accidentally goes off, the Huns attack the group of new recruits. They successfully fight off the Hun archers with their rockets. But when the Hun army comes over the crest of the hill, they see how outnumbered they are. Rather than accept their doom with the invading horde, Mulan has an idea and runs off with her last rocket. Lesson 13. When faced with difficult problems, look for creative solutions. When Mulan fires the rocket, Shan Yu sees the doom of his army coming. Rather than trying to take out a few more troops, she had the ingenious idea to start an avalanche that would take out the entire army. With a single brave action, Mulan saves China by thinking outside the box. As the Chinese soldiers try to escape from the avalanche, Mulan also saves Li Shang from going over the cliff in another brave feat of valor. As the troops cheer for Mulan, who has saved all of China, they realize that Mulan was wounded by Shan Yu, and they bring her to a doctor. When the doctor comes out of the tent, it is revealed that Mulan is not who she claimed to be, and for lying to everyone, should be punished. But when Shang brings her sword to her, he stops short and repays her for saving his own life earlier. A life for a life. Lesson 14. Do not repay good with evil. Mulan is left behind as the rest of her friends leave for the Imperial City. Mulan is in the depths of despair as it seems that she again has only brought shame to her family instead of bringing honor to them all. Upon reflection, she realizes that she also wanted to prove that she could do things right, so she could be proud of who she was. Lesson 15. Take time for solitude. It helps us to work through turmoil on the inside. As Mulan is about to go home, Shan Yu and some of his soldiers pop out of the snow. Mulan is shocked to see the Huns survive the avalanche. Quick-witted as ever, she knows she needs to go and warn the others. As the troop parades through the city to celebrate the saving of China from the Huns, Mulan warns Shang about Shan Yu. But Shang doesn't listen to her. Mulan tells her old companions to keep their eyes open. As the whole city celebrates victory together, the returning heroes bring the sword of Shan Yu back to the Emperor. Not everything is as it seems, however, for inside the parade dragon are hidden enemy soldiers. The Huns capture the Emperor and lock him up inside the palace. Mulan has another creative idea, however, and her old companions are quick to listen since they remember Mulan's other ideas and know she can be trusted. Lesson 16. Despite being rejected a number of times, Mulan didn't give up on trying to help others. Mulan and her companions disguise themselves as women and are able to sneak up to the enemy soldiers and disable them so they can save the Emperor. Shang and the others come to the Emperor's aid and save him from the Huns. When Shan Yu sees he no longer has power over the Emperor, he seeks out revenge on the ones that took his army away from him, and now the Emperor too. He recognizes Mulan from the avalanche and starts chasing after her. But in another feat of brilliant creativity, Mulan traps Shan Yu and brings an end to his reign of terror. When everyone is reunited, Mulan is praised by China's sovereign for not only saving the Emperor, but also saving China. Her bravery has brought honor to them all, and everyone in the city gives her the honor that she deserves. The Emperor then asks if Mulan would like a place in the palace as a counselor, but she gracefully declines and asks instead to simply go home. When Captain Shang fumbles his opportunity to pursue Mulan, the Emperor gives us Lesson 17. The flower that blooms in adversity is the most rare and beautiful of all. A woman like Mulan only comes around once a dynasty. When Mulan comes home to her father, he acknowledges the grand rewards that she received from the Emperor. But like a good father, what he really is happy about is having his daughter back home again. Lesson 18. What matters most is people, not things. And so Mulan restores the family honor, and yes, Shang pursues Mulan as well. And they lived happily ever after.